I am Teresa, and this is the Gut Feeling Podcast. Today, I want to talk about the big topic of how to reach our goals and the reason why some people do and some people don't, and also separating reaching goals that we want to reach versus goals that we are reaching on other people's behalf. I'm gonna let that sink in a bit because I think a lot of you guys will realize that most of the goals that you are working towards is not because of yourself. It might be because you want to be liked, because you want to get someone's approval, because you think that if you're going to do that, you're going to be good enough and all of these things. So yes, in some ways for yourself, but deep down, it's not 100% what you want to do. It's not actually, if you would think about it, what you would like to prioritize. I feel, and I've been seeing in my research and my interviews, here on the podcast, but also, I talk about these topics all the time. I see how many people burn out because of this. Because most people, a lot of people nowadays are very insecure to some extent. We have growing amount of narcissism, codependency because of the society that we're creating, where most of us are very addicted to dopamine. The dopamine rush of someone's feedback, someone's like, someone's approval of ourselves, the highs, the seeking of some intensity, novelty. And how does this bring us towards our goals? In so many senses, it doesn't. It's putting us off track, and we're seeking, the next drug, dopamine hit, That's what dopamine is a bit for our bodies. It's this high. We get it when we're working a lot, when we're working out a lot, when we're drinking alcohol, when we're doing drugs, when we scroll our phones, when we're binging Netflix, watching YouTube, playing video games, eating candy, indulging in things, it can be sex, it can be shopping. You have so many areas of life where this goes into, and it distracts us because we're on the way, we're like, oh, I want to do that, and then there's this next shiny object. And it's like, oh no, I'm just going to do this first. And suddenly we forgot about it. And it's like, these shiny objects keep coming in and takes us off our path. And people who have ADHD will struggle even more with this because of the attention, the lack of focus. It's easier for them to be pulled off. However, even though there's just some people in the population who has ADHD, most people in the population nowadays, because of the dopamine addiction that we have in our society, most people don't manage to work towards the goals. And they get lost in the process. We do. Not they. Me, you, everyone. And it's kind of sad. I made someone recently aware of this in their life, and I was like, it makes me kind of sad to realize that I can't remember the last time I worked towards one of my goals. What would that look like? I don't even know what my goals are. And how can I prioritize? My time, my resources, my money into reaching these goals. And how can I even, come past all of these distractions that are keeping me away from reaching my goals. And imagine, when this happens on a personal level with most people, because we are so addicted to dopamine. We're addicted, we're addicted to things in life. And all of us have jobs. So it doesn't stop, on when we leave our homes. We take this into our workplaces. We take this into our companies, into politics, into international organizations, leadership, healthcare, school systems, everywhere. And it's kind of sad to see that there's so much reactivity, because we're not used to prioritizing. We kind of forgot a bit how to do that. And it's no one to blame, but the society that we live in makes it hard. It doesn't make it easy to not be addicted. It makes it easy to want to flee, because most people get overwhelmed. They're like, it's just so much easier putting on Netflix and escaping somehow. Sitting there scrolling, and wasting our lives. Feeling a feeling. It's like, I'm just going to grab a chocolate, and put on the TV and, escape. Or what I've been doing, I realize, is traveling. It's like, oh, I want to start this thing here, but there's this really shiny object somewhere else in the world, and if I just go there, everything is going to be easier. And to some extent, there has been a lot of growth for me. I must admit, like, I'm quite glad that this has been my addiction to travel, because I've been learning a lot while traveling, and it has been kind of a way for me to be another version of myself and practice things. But then whenever I came back, there was a bigger distance between my traveling self and my version back home. So then every time I was like, I'm gonna implement this back home, I was like, I'm just gonna travel again. And then this gap just became bigger and became harder to integrate this version of myself back home. So yeah, it's finding this balance. So there's so many ways of kind of fleeing life, distracting ourselves from life. And if you hear this, what I'm bringing into this equation is our attachment style, which is are you avoidant or are you anxious? Do you push through too hard, or do you pull away or run away? Avoidant, anxious. And also the fight, flight, freeze, the fleeing. So, everything is ingrained. And what is interesting about this is most people are like, oh, it's not relevant at work, don't bring up, feelings, emotions, these kind of things. It doesn't belong in the workplace. Are you kidding me? If we don't talk about it and how this impacts the workplace, and not just the workplace, but international, global politics and conflicts. There's so much anxious and avoidant attachment in decision making on that level, and the fight, flight, freeze responses and reactivity. Where do you think that comes from? It's ingrained in us, and the fact that our media is hitting on our fear buttons all the time. They're playing with us because it's so ingrained in us. And then we say, like, no, leave that back home. But you read a newspaper maybe on your spare time, but do you bring that with you to work? We're whole people. Of course we bring all these things into the workplace. And how is this relevant towards reaching goals, do you think? Has everything to do with it. Because if we don't know what we deep down want, and we don't have tools in our private life to lead ourselves, like self-leadership, if we don't lead ourselves in a good way, if we don't manage to really, look at our priorities and create focus and do the things that is needed to reach hard goals, we're probably not going to be able to do the same thing at work. So I mean, like, who should invest in these kind of like workshops, trainings? Private people, it's in their benefit, but for corporations and governments and everything, I think it's so relevant because it would help people to make more kind of focused decisions without the reactivity and distractions. There's, because if you avoid looking at certain things, you don't make really a neutral decision. And there's for sure things that we don't want to look at. So I'll bring this back to the private aspect of this, because most of you are human, I believe. So how does this go into our private lives? The decision making, reaching goals. Well, think about it. When did you last time work towards a goal that you felt down to your core was like, I really want to make this happen, but it's going to be hard. I don't know how to. I've been jealous about someone else doing it for a long time. But I don't have the skills. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the space. Today I was like, I was going to record this podcast and I was like, shit, I don't have a place to do it. And now, I was like, oh, but I do have this room. It's not the best place in the house, but I was like, sometimes we just gotta find a way. There's always so many excuses. Why not? And then, we get our triggers, or especially the avoidance. I was talking about that in the last episode. It's just like all of these things that it just is always pushed sometime in the future. And it's because of the dread, it's because of the feelings, the fear. What is that about? Why do you keep fleeing? What is it that you so much want in life, but you just can't get to? Aren't you finished with that? Don't you want to just kind of like be like over with that phase of your life? Get out of, that I can't do it, it's not for me. Being sad about it, feeling jealous, feeling that bump in your stomach when you see other people having it. Aren't you finished with that? I think you are. If else, you wouldn't still be listening or watching. You would be somewhere else distracted. So how can you get clear and honest with yourself about what you really want to prioritize in life? I can recommend for you to close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and envision, what kind of things you would love to have in your life in 2025. What makes you smile when you think about it, It's like, oh, I would love to see these people. I would love to talk to that person. I would love to initiate this and this. I would love to see that happening. And in my holidays, oh my God, I would love in my holidays to do that and that. And after work, I would love to do that. And I would love to have more of. And in the mornings, I would love to wake up feeling like And after work, I would love to feel like this. And then at work, I would love to talk to this person. And I would love to talk less to that person. And I would love to do more of this at work and less of that. And most of all, I just really, really want to feel like and have more of. And I really just want to do it. I want to stop thinking about it, and I just want to start doing it. I don't know if anything came to you when I said this. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. If it didn't, maybe your life is great, or maybe you can do some meditations and really like feel into your body what would make you feel good in 2025. What would you love to achieve in your work life? What makes you smile and joyful? What kind of people inspire you? And why? Who are you jealous about? And why? Can you turn all of these things into inspiration? And if it feels huge, how can you look at steps that you can take this next hour, tomorrow, this coming week, this coming month, and this year? And maybe you say, nothing, life is great. Well, great for you, great for you. I cheer on you. And if you don't know, it's like, I've been having that feeling sometimes in life, like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know. Well, deep down you do. You really do. I know you do. So what do you need to get that out of yourself? Is it some meditation? Maybe you want to do some boxing. Maybe you want to do a retreat. Maybe you're searching a coach. Maybe, I don't know, you need some more nature, exercising. Just go out and try. The best thing you can do is, just start doing something else. Especially if you feel anxious, depressed, lonely, it's time to maybe do something different. And especially when it comes to loneliness, actually all of these things, it's in our heads. So much of anxiousness is, the fear of being seen for who we are. And what is crazy is most people already see us. So we're trying to hide from them what they already see. So the less anxious we become, the more we're just more kind of honest with people about who we are, but they knew all the time. We just dared to say it out loud. For example, I was like so ashamed of having freckles until I was like 30. And I wouldn't talk about it to anyone. And I was on Tinder and this guy asked me like, do you have freckles? And I was like, oh shit, it's not really visible on my Tinder profile. So on that day I stopped wearing foundation. And I was like, I really don't want to be with someone who don't like freckles. And I stuck with foundation and nobody really noticed. I was like, wow, that's so strange. And so eventually I started talking about my freckles and I'm like, oh, people saw them even though I didn't talk about them. I was like, it's so visible. And I heard someone saying that, oh, I've been hiding that I'm anxious because I don't want people to know it. And I don't want people to know I'm nervous. And it just occurred to me that it's so obvious that you are. You can't hide that. It's just we're keeping it to ourselves because we feel embarrassed. We don't want anyone to know that we're anxious. But everyone can see it. People notice it. Sometimes we manage to hide it really well, but it shows up in another way. And eventually it's gonna, come and run over us in some way. I used to be quite anxious, and I was very good at hiding it because I was, the protector, and in that way I was always protecting someone else. So I was very confident in the role of taking care of someone else who was in need. But I was never sharing about my own vulnerability. So it always make it into someone else. And, I can help you, I can take care of you, I can fix this. So I always, move the focus from me to them. And even when I was talking about myself, I would always talk about things that I could control, things that I already knew. I wouldn't let people into things that was new. Yeah. So, what do you want to do? And how can you work towards your goals? I know you probably have a lot of excuses why it's not possible. And honestly, I don't care about any of them. Because if you really want something, you will find a way. If you're not doing it right now, it might be because you're not ready. Maybe you don't want it enough. But if you really want something, you prioritize your time, your energy, and your money. And if you're currently not doing that on things that bring you towards your goals, your focus is elsewhere and you're prioritizing something else. You're choosing the life that you are living. And you can say, but I'm so tired in the evening, there's no time, there's no energy left. Okay, how can you find more energy? There's always a way. And the thing is, when we're doing something and working towards something that we love, it also gives us energy. It can give and create dopamine in a good way. So instead of watching Netflix, which gives you a lot of dopamine, you can turn on, I have this playlist, it's called something like ADHD techno. Yeah, it's real techno focus. It's really good, and it's created to make dopamine in certain parts of the brain. And I'm sure that it also works for other people who are tired and need to switch focus. I'm quite sure that's what it does, because I was super tired early today, and I was like, oh, I feel really like this, and I put this playlist on the metro, and it was like 2 minutes, and I was in a totally different mood. So using these kind of methods to switch the energy, you can also do somatic shaking, or you can do some squats, or maybe you want to scream, or you want to listen to your favorite pop song and scream and shout and sing, whatever you need, dance, hit something. We have a lot of tension stored in our hips, and often when we start moving this, suddenly it's like, oh, I wasn't actually exhausted, I was just maybe fearful, I was stuck somehow, and when you start moving it, suddenly there's a creative energy that you can bring into something else, because we have the mental, we have the emotional, and we have the physical energy. And sometimes we're tired in one of them, but we're not tired in all of them. And the creative energy definitely comes often from a different part of our body than what we use in a job where we aren't necessarily so motivated, or in a life where we feel a bit tired and depressed and finished and yeah. All right, I hope you got something from this, at least to be a bit curious about your own goals and starting believing in your own ability to work towards them. That's the most important thing you can do. And also, looking into aspects of your life where you can find, if it's a minute, or if it's half an hour, whatever it is, but just start. And start with, writing down, oh, I would love to have more of this in my life, because goals doesn't need to be huge. It can be a feeling. It can be, energy. Like, I just want to have more energy. Okay, how do you get more energy? Do you need to prioritize your sleep? Going for walks, meditating, mindfulness, breathing. Really, really breathing. Or working out, being outdoors. There's so many things that we don't think about that can start, just giving a bit more of what we're actually looking for. Sometimes it's not the big things, it's the small things. I'm realizing that more and more, just what creates our great lives isn't, going to Thailand or Bali. It's about finding ways to create a really good life where we are. It's not about the holidays, it's about our everyday routine. And prioritizing things in our everyday routine that we would normally do on a holiday. Because it's so typical, we go on holidays and we're this amazing person, we do all of these things, and then we come home and we're a totally different person. I used to be, this super reckless, spontaneous, crazy person while traveling. And back home, super responsible. And then I was like, okay, how can I was, unless I was drunk back home, then I was also, this traveling version of myself. But, finding that balance where, I didn't need the alcohol to be a bit crazy, but, my level of craziness was a bit more stable, not outrageous. And also, traveling, also more stable. And back home, just having more fun, more creativity, more kind of spontaneity, whatever, just made up a word, or, courses, and maybe trying out some different hobbies, whatever it is for you. It's, feels good. And it feels so different than the novelty kind of seeking behavior, with the dopamine hits, because all of these things might sound boring in comparison. Because we constantly seek these dopamine hits. But what happens is, when we do something very, very exciting, our dopamine levels go up here. And then afterwards it drops to the equal level before it balances. So the more extreme experiences we have up here, the further down we go, which makes us feel depressed. And especially about our regular daily lives and tasks. It's very typical among people with ADHD, but now we're seeing it a lot in everyone because of the dopamine addiction. And then it goes to normal balance, but then up, down, up, down, up, down. Oh, and it's exhausting us, and it's making us actually very depressed and unsatisfied with our lives. So we can choose differently. We can choose to be less on our phones. We can choose to be more mindful about our phone usage. Getting off, our screens and just being more present in life, with creativity, play, talking with people, seeing people. Maybe, just try it out for like 5 minutes at a time, to just, instead of going straight on your phone or to some simulation, to really just be with your body and just notice if that's hard or easy. And if it's easy, do it more. If that's really hard, maybe you want to be a bit curious about that. Yeah. Because it might be a sign that you're very addicted to dopamine and that this impacts your life a lot. And also that, maybe be a bit curious about how that impacts how you reach your goals. And if you do, and if you manage to get to where you really want to be in life. Not what everyone else wants you to do, the things that people push on you, expect from you, you seeking people's attention or approval? Or is that the kind of goals that you're reaching? Or is it the goals that you set for yourself? The goals that actually requires for you to say no just because you feel that's right, even though other people don't understand. Yeah, and all of these things. Because it comes from an inner place. I'm curious. I'm not saying that these things are easy. Listening to this might be even quite uncomfortable. It was to me, to realize it's even a bit uncomfortable right now because it goes so deep into our lives. Yeah. And it's sad. It actually makes me quite sad and a bit scared to see how many people are just so off track and pushing so hard towards reaching goals from scarcity and fear. Yeah. And not being in a very good place. Not managing even to, celebrate and feel happy when they reach their goals. It's this kind of always constant seeking of the next thing, of the big rush, the next rush. Instead of celebrating and being happy and proud and, oh shit, I got a cramp in my leg. Yeah, it would be amazing if we could celebrate ourselves and others. Yeah, because it feels, reaching goals it feels good even though, we do it because of others, but then we do it, not from this inner place, this, child in us that is just like, I really, really want to create this. It feels like a calling. It just feels like what I'm supposed to do with my life. It feels like a dream. It feels terrifying. It feels scary. Because I care. And I'm afraid of being rejected. I'm afraid that people won't like it because it's vulnerable. It's touching my heart. It's showing people who I am. And that's so different than when I do something because someone gives me the task and they applaud me when I'm done. And in the beginning, it feels like a little baby. And we protect it really, really dearly because we're so afraid that someone will come and hurt it, take it away from us, and that we're not going to be able to protect it through, its childhood. Because it's vulnerable. But then, it starts growing and you see it coming into life and becoming a teenager and, it's a bit rebellious, but still, yeah, it's this inner pride of just like, wow, I created this. And I really believe in this, and it feels so important for me that this will work out. Because there's just something inside my core that knows that this is the right thing. There's just something there, and I can't exactly explain how it's going to turn out and where it's going to end up, but it just feels so right. And so good. And so terrifying. Yeah. I'm on that path of my own. You probably realize or know. And it's the first time in my life that I do that. And to be honest, it's a bit confusing because sometimes I'm like, do I really want to do this? And I've been looping, you know, it's like, no, I don't want to. I talked with a friend today. It's like, I often come back to this, like, I don't know if I want to do it, you know, why am I doing it? It's so hard, you know, and then I kind of push it away, and then I always come back to the same. I always come back. And it's this inner sabotager that is just like trying to protect me because it is vulnerable, and it's way easier just to, you know, choose other things and choose a totally different path, but this feels down to the core right for me. It does. Yeah, and that's why it's scary. So it's this combination of very scary and amazing and exciting at the same time. It might feel different for you, but there's something there. You know, when we know that after I do this, I'm gonna feel good. It's gonna feel great. Because even though it's scary, even though I might fail, even though I might look stupid, on the other side, I have practiced, I have tried, and I have moved one step closer to something that I really dream for. Yeah. I hope you want to go out and do the same. Yeah. Bring your heart into your own passion, your focus, money, and energy. Even though you have to say no to some friends, to some plans, prioritize your money differently. Maybe, you know, there's a concert you're gonna say no to, or a holiday. Maybe you want to prioritize your weekends differently, or your days after work. I don't know what it is. But you know it's worth it. And I think you're ready. Yeah. Yeah, you are. Doesn't it feel great? To you probably have this tingly feeling in your stomach. You know, we often do when it's the start of something big, something new, something you really want to, but feels a bit scary. Yeah. But I believe you're ready to jump into it. Take those first steps. Now. Just do it.